Hey, it's Emily. I swear to God. Lola! Welcome back to my channel. It's been a bit. It has been a bit. And I know I said I was done with YouTube, but I just couldn't stay away. And not only am I going back on my word about making videos, but I'm also, well, you saw the title, we're talking about Supernatural today. If you want to know how things have been going on in my life since I took my break, I have uploaded a couple podcasts that I'll link to in the description if you are so inclined. Other than that, let's get into the topic at hand. God. Now, I don't find myself to be a very religious person. In fact, I would go as far as to say I am an atheist. I grew up in the Catholic Church, and I'll just say it wasn't for me. But when it comes to Supernatural, I think the way that they approach the character of God and the idea of heaven and the divine, or whatever you want to call it, is just so fascinating, especially in the later seasons. The concept of faith and all that comes with it, God included, is prevalent throughout the series, even in the early seasons, regardless of the fact that the show originally was supposed to be more of like a monster of the week. Yes, there was a through line, and yes, it involved demons, but we've been told that originally the creator, Eric Kripke, didn't even want to involve angels in the show. But when they did, oh boy. Now, the show definitely has a heavy Judeo-Christian slant, even though they do often include pagan gods and other deities as well from time to time. In the world of Supernatural, the Judeo-Christian God created the universe. In season 4, we meet the character of
Chuck Shirley?
Or better known in universe at the time, Carver Edlund. Easter egg is that he's actually named after two of the writers that worked on the show at the time. Jeremy Carver, who went on to showrun seasons 8 through 11 of the show, and Ben Edlund, who is renowned in the fandom as someone who is one of the best writers on the show. Speaking of writing, Chuck was a writer. He wrote the in-canon series of books titled Supernatural. The books were based on the real events that happened to Sam and Dean in their lives. Chuck saw them happen because, as we find out,
He's a prophet of the Lord.
Sort of. During seasons 4 and 5, the angels are kind of orchestrating an apocalypse using Sam and Dean as pawns. They are the archangels, Lucifer and Michael's true vessels, and the angels want Sam and Dean to say yes to being possessed by Michael and Lucifer, so that they can bring peace to humanity by decimating the earth and sending all of the souls to heaven, more or less. But heaven is anything but peaceful. Dean and Sam find this out by being killed at one point and sent there. It's a place where human souls just relive their memories. There's nothing necessarily to look forward to, and at the heart of it is, of course, this bureaucracy of angels that has lost the plot. They were created to love humanity and protect them, and instead they're trying to save them by killing them all. Sam and Dean avert the apocalypse in the end with very little help from Chuck. He's then believed to be a prophet, although he kind of disappears for about 8 years until he comes back into Sam and Dean's life and reveals himself. He's actually been God this entire time.
We should probably talk.
That's kind of something that, as a fandom, we were speculating and kind of pretty much knew at that point, especially as years went by. We heard behind-the-scenes things, tidbits, that, yeah, he was God. Chuck was God. So then in season 11, he comes back and he announces to Sam and Dean, I am God. He was just acting as a prophet, but he couldn't help the boys back then because, as he states, he's hands-off.
Believe me, I was hands-on. Real hands-on for, wow, ages. I was so sure if I kept stepping in, teaching, punishing. These beautiful creatures that I created would grow up. But it only stayed the same. And I saw that I needed to step away and let my baby find its way.
The only reason he came back is because his sister, yes, God has a sister. Her name is Amara, and she is wreaking havoc on his creation. A long, long time ago, God and his archangels, Michael, Lucifer, Gabriel, and Raphael, locked Amara away into what was called the Mark of Cain, which was then given to Cain himself, and then eventually given to Dean in season 9, in order for Dean to be able to kill this very powerful demon named Abaddon. It's not important. Anyway, Sam and Cass spend an entire season and a half trying to get the Mark of Cain off of Dean, and when they finally do in the season 10 finale, Amara was set free onto the earth. She was angry at Chuck for keeping her locked away for millennia, and she wanted to destroy everything that he held dear. But she was also bonded to Dean because of his experience with the Mark of Cain. It was uncomfortable. Anyway, this adds some nuance to the story of how the universe was created. It wasn't just God in the beginning. Amara was there as well. Then God started creating, and Amara didn't like that, but Chuck couldn't give up his creation, so he banished her. Dean and Sam and their whole ragtag team of free will loving people and entities tried to kill Amara, but it doesn't work and only throws the universe off balance. Chuck and Amara balance each other out. When one is weakened or gone, chaos ensues. And so one cannot exist without the other, and the only option that they had was for Dean to attempt to reason with Amara and Chuck, and it worked. He was able to show her that maybe they could just work their problems out, and Chuck and Amara flew off together to reconcile and left the Earth to fend for itself. That is until Jack. But I'm getting ahead of myself. In season 12, Lucifer had been imprisoned by Crowley for some time and eventually gained the loyalty of Crowley's demons, who helped him go free. Once free, he took possession of the President of the United States. Mind you, this was 1 month after the 2016 election, so a little too soon. Just a tiny bit. Anyway, he had sex with a presidential aide by the name of Kline and purposely impregnated her. The conception of this child set off alarm bells in heaven.
A Nephilim has come into being.
A Nephilim is the offspring of an angel and a human, and we learned about how heaven feels about Nephilim in season 8. Long story short, Nephilim are frowned upon. They're abominations. And even more so, a Nephilim with Lucifer as their father, well, let's just say that that's the worst kind of Nephilim that heaven could possibly imagine. So heaven wanted this child dead. Sam and Dean were conflicted, and Kline wanted her baby to be born. It was clear that this child would be more powerful than an archangel, than Lucifer, and heaven was determined to eradicate that threat of power. They tried to enlist Castiel to kill Kelly, but when he was faced with the opportunity to do so, he couldn't bring himself to do it. He took Kelly and he ran from the angels that were trying to kill her, and the demons who were trying to use her for their own nefarious purposes, for, their plans of domination. Lucifer wanted his son for his own purposes, and whatever. Kelly felt the baby kick at one point and told Cass to feel it. When he did, the child showed Castiel the future, a future of peace and contentment. He saw that this child would do good for the world, and he could no longer risk him not being born. So he also ran from Sam and Dean, who were trying to find a way to power the kid down. Kelly and Cass both knew that he had to be born at full power. They also knew that this would kill Kelly, and the child chose Castiel to be his father. So Castiel vowed to take care of him. Unfortunately, Lucifer stabbed Cass in the back right as the child was being born, and Lucifer was pulled into a different dimension. It's not important right now, but what is important is that Jack was born, and he wasn't a baby. He was well, I think Alex was like 27 at the time, the actor who plays him, but I think like the age that he was supposed to be was around like 22, 23, I don't know. Anyway, when he's born, Dean hates him because he blames Jack not only for Cass dying, but also for his mother being pulled in with Lucifer into that other world. Dean incorrectly assumes that she's dead, but regardless, he blames Jack for everything. Sam wants to understand Jack and wants to give him a chance to be taught what is good versus what's bad. And it's, it's the classic nature versus nurture argument, and of course there's always going to be an element of both. Jack is powerful, that's for sure. Heaven and hell are still after him, so he stays in the bunker for a little bit, and they figure out how to get him situated with everything. And one night, when Dean and Sam are arguing, Sam is thinking that Dean is too hard on Jack, and Dean is explaining his feelings. One of my favorite scenes of the entire show for reasons.
I can hardly look at the kid, because when I do, all I see is everybody we've lost.
Mom chose to take that shot at Lucifer. That is not on Jack.
And what about Cass?
What about Cass?
He manipulated him. He made him promises, said paradise on earth. And Cass bought it. And you know what that got him? It got him dead. Now you might be able to forget about that, but I can't.
And Jack wakes Castiel up in the Empty. The Empty is the place where demons and angels go when they die. It is a place where they all go when they die, regardless of anything else. This is where angels go when they die. And it's not super mega turbo hell, it's just the fucking Empty. And they don't go there just because they're queer. Okay, my sweeties, who literally have never watched more than 5 minutes of this show and feel the need to comment on it. Anyway, Cass wakes up in the Empty and annoys the cosmic entity in charge enough that it spits him back out on Earth. Dean is suddenly no longer depressed, and it is obviously having nothing to do with Cass coming back to life. And now he gets along swimmingly with Jack. But Jack still wants to be able to prove himself useful and good.
Every time I try and do something good, people get hurt. I thought I was getting better. I'm not. I don't know what I am. But I know I can't make the world a better place, not like this. I can't even do one good thing.
He tries to open another rift to that other world where Mary is, and in the process he gets stuck there himself with Mary. And so Sam, Dean, Cass, and Gabriel, long story, go on a rescue mission to the other world to get them all back. Well, to get them back, and then they bring a bunch of alternate universe hunters back home because this other world was destroyed by this AU Michael, and they want to try to find a way to stop him from coming over to Sam and Dean's world and destroying it. Meanwhile, Lucifer wants to get closer to his son, and Jack is conflicted. He's never known his father, but he did know what people thought about him. You know, he's universally hated and everything. At this point, Sam, Cass, and Dean all think of themselves as fathers to Jack. So they're all very protective of him against Lucifer. But Lucifer is very persuasive, and Jack wanted to believe that deep down inside of Lucifer there was some sliver of good, because if there wasn't, then what hope does he have for himself? But of course, he was mistaken. Lucifer is absolute trash, but that doesn't mean that Jack is evil, regardless. He was mistaken, and AU Michael and our Lucifer had made a deal that if Lucifer brought him back to their world, that he would leave Jack alone and Lucifer alive, and they could go flit off into space while Michael has the entire world to destroy for himself. And Jack is very upset when he finds this out.
We could have been something, you and me. We could have remade the universe. Wouldn't great? We could have been better gods than Dad. And I really wanted that, pal. I wanted that. But now, if I can't have it with you, I don't need you. I just need your power.
Lucifer steals Jack's grace, powers up and takes Jack and Sam for some reason. I think Sam just got pulled along with him, but he takes them and he brings them somewhere else, and Dean and Cass and AU Michael are all stuck together. Wherever Lucifer took them, he made Sam and Jack make a choice.
So one of you is going to walk out that door, and the other one will be laying dead on the ground. You choose.
No.
Or you could do that, and I can murder you both and end all life in the universe.
But neither of them wanted to kill each other, quite obviously. They love each other. So the only way to beat Lucifer at this point was for Dean to say yes to Michael and be his true vessel and go beat Lucifer. And so he does, and they fight like marionettes in this church. It's the worst. Anyway, Lucifer dies and Michael stays possessing Dean despite him saying he wouldn't do that. Shocker. Jack is now powerless and he feels hopeless and useless, especially now that Michael has Dean. But soon after, Michael leaves Dean's body for some reason that doesn't matter for this video, and Jack is just starting to get the hang of hunting without using his powers. But then he starts coughing up blood. It seems that without his grace, his body is completely shutting down, and unfortunately there's no cure. So he dies, and the boys are devastated, to say the least. They find a way to bring him back, but it would require him to perform magic with the use of his soul to keep him alive. The more magic he uses, the more it depletes his soul. He basically uses the whole thing while killing AU Michael to save Sam, Dean, and Cass.
I will not be challenged by a child!
I'm not a child! I'm the son of Lucifer. I'm a hunter. I am a Winchester.
Without his human soul, what's left? Well, he's Lucifer's son, but it's not that he's evil, he just lacks empathy and moral understanding of right and wrong. He doesn't feel anything, so he doesn't understand what he's doing, something that could hurt someone. Without his soul, he uses his power erratically, and in an instance of panic, he kills Mary Winchester. While he may not have full comprehension of morality, he knows what he did was wrong. It was an accident, but it was still terrible, and he believes that there's no coming back from it. Dean and Sam would never forgive him, and so he runs. And Heaven tries to use him to make more angels, trying to play off his love for Sam and Dean and his desire for forgiveness. Dean and Sam pray to Jack to try to trick him into coming back to the bunker, so that they can lock him away in the Malik box. All the while, Jack is hallucinating Lucifer as his conscience, and Lucifer's pulling him away from trusting Sam and Dean, which, I mean, maybe he shouldn't have. They were lying to him. And because they lied to him and he realizes that, he gets so upset and screams.
Stop lying!
And so the entire world does stop lying, and it descends into chaos. And this chaos, along with a Hail Mary prayer from Cass, brings Chuck back onto the board.
Jack. He's a problem.
Now, Chuck says he can't stop Jack, but he does give them a weapon to be able to stop him themselves. It's a gun called the Equalizer. Whatever happens to the person being shot also happens to the person doing the shooting. So if Jack dies, so does the person who shot him. Dean is sure that this is the only way, and he's going to be the one to do it. Cass and Sam want to find another way, and Dean is just still so angry that Jack killed Mary. Understandable. But when it does come to the final moment, Jack surrenders, kneeling in front of Dean, waiting to be killed. And Dean can't pull the trigger. They're family. He can't do it. This frustrates Chuck, surprisingly, and he intervenes.
No. Pick it up!
And this is it. The reveal. At the end of season 14, going into season 15, knowing that this is the end, the ultimate villain of this 15-year-long series is God himself. Because he hasn't been as hands-off as he purported he was.
Gathering storm, the gun, the father killing his own son. This is Abraham and Isaac. This is epic.
Wait, what are you saying?
He's saying he's been playing us.
This whole time.
Come on.
Our entire lives. Mom, Dad, everything. This is all you because you wrote it all, right? Because what? Because we're your favorite show? Because we're part of your story?
He's been behind the wheel the entire time. And this isn't how the story was supposed to go. Dean was supposed to kill Jack. Well, Sam and Dean don't want to play his game. They never have wanted to play his game. They're team free will. That goes against everything they believe in. And Chuck, of course, is not happy with that. So he kills Jack. Guess he was lying about not being able to do that. And brings on another apocalypse. This time he opens up a hellmouth and all the doors in hell, letting out every last soul and this world's Michael, who was still in the cage from back in season 5. Before Chuck flits off, Sam shoots him with the equalizer, but doesn't kill him. At first, Sam and Dean believed that this was it, that this was their final apocalypse and that Chuck had given up on them. But they were incorrect. It was just a distraction, and now Chuck is pissed and low on power because of being shot by Sam. Chuck and Sam are intrinsically tied to one another in some way now because of the equalizer, and Chuck can't seem to leave Earth because of it. He tries to get Amara to help him out, but she's uninterested in helping him. She sees it as a sort of retribution for him locking her away for so long. Rightly so. Anyway, Jack is in the empty, being killed by God, and is visited by Billy, the new death, who seems to have a plan for him. Dean blames Cass for Mary's death because he knew something was off with Jack and didn't tell anyone, even though they all knew something was off with Jack, and they even admitted that in an episode. And anyway, I love Dean. Don't get me wrong, I love him, but come on. And this argument between them, this tension between them, makes Cass have to leave, seemingly for good. After the apocalypse was stopped, they were alerted to the fact that, well, Chuck isn't as gone as they thought he was, and Sam and Eileen get captured by him. This brings Cass back into the game, and Dean and Cass have to find a way to lock Chuck away, much like Chuck did to Amara. Cass agrees to take on the new Mark of Cain in this scenario, and Dean and Cass have to head back to Purgatory in order to perform the spell. While in Purgatory, Dean prays an apology to Cass because he's worried that he might be dead or dying, and he doesn't want that to happen before he apologizes to him. It's very sweet. Anyway, Cass is not dead or dying. They make it back to Earth, and they rush over to save Sam. During that time, Chuck has been showing Sam the future in which they win against Chuck and put him away. Without Chuck, the monsters take over the world. Vampires, werewolves, all of that. They take over the world, and eventually Sam and Dean are turned into vampires and killed by Jody and Bobby. Not ideal. Also, everyone else in their lives is either dead or in hiding, or in Cass's case,
Ever since the Mark made Cass go crazy, ever since I had to bury him in a mallet box, ever since then,
this breaks Sam. The hope that he's held onto for so long that they could possibly beat Chuck is gone. And without that hope, Chuck is free. That was what was tying them together and keeping Chuck weakened. Without it, Chuck is unstoppable again, and Dean and Cass's plan is foiled and they're back at square one. Enter Jack once again.
Hello.
Jack? It's really him.
When Cass finds Jack, he brings him home to the bunker, and Jack explains the plan as best as he can to them. Billy has Jack eating hearts of Grigori angels, which are a special kind of angels, and it's all for strength. He still doesn't have a soul, and Billy is guiding him, showing him a way that he can kill God eventually. They are wary of the plan, but at the same time, if there's a way to kill God, they've got to take it. Unfortunately, that also means killing Amara, because one can't exist without the other, so they both must die. The plan continues, and Jack basically has to go through these rituals. One includes him being transported to Eden, and there he gains his soul back. The final step of the plan is finding Adam, yes, the Adam, the first man, and getting a rib bone of his. You know, as the story goes. They do get it, but this is after Jack reveals to them that when he initiates this final step, he's going to die as well. Billy's plan is turning him into a bomb that would go off and create a black hole and suck up cosmic energies. Dean is still on board with the plan. He's still mad about Mary, but also he's just so hell-bent on killing Chuck because Chuck has been controlling him this entire time, and he's really upset about that. He doesn't like the fact that he's been manipulated. And so he's still on board with this plan, but Cass and Sam are trying to find another way, but it is too late, and Jack initiates the plan. Amara and Chuck have this heart-to-heart. Amara believes that Sam and Dean are trying to lock Chuck away, not kill him. When she finds out that they lied to her about that, she's more keen to help Chuck. They become one. Chuck Mara, if you will. It's then that Chuck reveals the main difference between this universe and all of the various others in which he got the ending that he wanted. That ending being Sam and Dean killing each other. Sam killing Dean, Dean killing Sam, whichever, them killing each other, who knows. Anyway, that's the ending he wants. The only difference between this universe and all of the others.
You know what every other version of you did after gripping him tight and raising him from perdition? They did what they were told. But not you. Not the one off the line with a crack in his chassis.
None of the other Castiels rebelled against heaven. None of the others fell. None of the others fell in love with Dean Winchester. But let's just save that beautiful thought for another video. Jack is about to explode, and Jack is about to explode, so Chuck Mara leaves, and Billy shows up, and she's pissed. She wanted this plan to go through the way that she wanted it to go through and have Jack die and all of this stuff. She's pissed, but she sends Jack to the Empty to explode, and hopefully he'll survive. She doesn't know, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Jack does survive, but he's in the Empty now, and the Empty is really angry that this happened and that Billy sent him there. So Billy brings Jack back, but wants to take him with her to do her bidding. Dean takes a swipe at Billy with her own scythe, which is the only thing that can hurt or kill her, and she leaves too without Jack. Jack no longer has his powers, he realizes, and once again, he feels very useless. On top of that, all of the people that are here from the AU world are disappearing. Also, people that the Winchesters care about that are supposed to be dead. They suspect that Billy is behind it, and Sam and Jack round up all of the AU hunters and ward them against Billy being able to get them, while Dean and Cass go to kill Billy. Unfortunately, they were wrong about who was making everyone disappear. It was Chuck, and Billy is dying from that swipe that Dean took at her, and so she wants revenge. She wants Dean Winchester dead before she dies. But of course, Castiel will not let that happen, so he sacrifices himself for Dean in a heartwarming, queer confession of romantic love, which summons the Empty to take him, and in the process, taking Billy as well. So Cass is dead, Dean is fucking devastated, and they realize now they're the only ones on Earth. Chuck has disappeared all of the other people, not just the people that were supposed to be dead, leaving just Sam, Dean, and Jack. But Jack feels a power disturbance. Something else is there with them. It's Michael. He's been hiding from Chuck and agrees to work with them to take Chuck down. But Sam and Dean know better than to trust Michael, especially when Chuck brings Lucifer back from the dead to try to find out how God is going to die through his death book. Anyway, they notice that Michael's pissed that God would choose Lucifer over him. And they also realize that since Jack came back from the Empty, he's actually become a type of power vacuum, sucking up any ounce of power that is being used in front of him. So they egg Lucifer and Michael on into a fight, and Jack sucks up all that power being thrown around, and then they meet with Chuck. They had told Michael a fake plan and knew Chuck would be coming, and they egg him on. into a fight as well. And Jack sucks up all that power, and now he's more powerful than Chuck himself. And so Jack absorbs all of Chuck's power, and they leave him there, powerless and human.
His power. You sure he won't come back?
It's not his power anymore.
And so there he is, Jack Kline, the son of Sam, Dean, and Castiel, the new god. And he restores all of the humans and animals that Chuck had gotten rid of. Amara is within him. They're at peace together. Jack is the new god, and he is actually going to be hands-off. He's not going to stay on Earth and hang out in the bunker with Sam and Dean, but he does have a few tricks up his sleeve. He brings Cass out of the empty, and together they recreate heaven.
Well, at least I made it to heaven.
Yep.
What memory is this?
It ain't, you idiot.
They tear down the confining walls, the looping memories, and make it what it always should have been. A place where you can be with your loved ones for eternity without pain. You can do whatever you want and be with the ones you love forever. And that was it. This was Jack's destiny. This was the future that he showed Castiel, a peaceful future. It was the heaven that was created with Dean Winchester in mind.
It ain't just heaven, Dean. It's the heaven you deserve.
The topics of God and heaven in the world of Supernatural have developed over the years within the show's run, starting off as just a concept that was almost foreign to the boys, to something that they experienced firsthand and hated, to something and someone that they thought was on their side, to something sinister and controlling, and finally arriving in its final form, something that they created themselves. Jack may have been Lucifer's spawn, but he was a Winchester in every way that counts. Sam, Dean, and Cass raised him and taught him to love humanity and be kind and be good. And I just think it's so fitting and beautiful that God's final form in this show was actually the pure embodiment of their goodness. And I also think it's quite interesting that the person who created heaven in the show, Andrew Dabb, also created this new version of heaven and rewrote it. It's kind of his thing, is flipping something that happened within the show on its head and redoing it in a way. He just does that all the time. It's so interesting to me. I'll probably talk about that in another video at some point. But that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I have a couple more things coming up for you in the future. One that is going to take me a long time to make, but I'm really excited about it. And the other is definitely going to take me a lot less time. And I'm also excited about it, but I'm just saying. They're both Supernatural related, so I'm back on my bullshit. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos just like this. It's been fun. Bye.